Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Romeo and Juliet, and we are in the most famous scene of the play, maybe one of the most famous scenes in all of Shakespeare. And today we get to hear from Juliet, and also a voice that in the folio is just called Within, but we're pretty sure that it's the nurse. So we'll just say that this is Juliet and the nurse. But since the nurse's voice is coming from within, I'm just gonna duck out of view when it's the nurse's lines, and that's how you can tell who's Juliet and who's within. So anyway, Romeo and Juliet had met at this party at the Capulet's house, and then he sort of broke into her yard after that and is talking to her now, like through her bedroom window, because she came outside to sort of bemoan the fact or have angst about the fact that she's fallen in love with her mortal enemy. And they've now exchanged vows of love with one another, and they're feeling pretty good about things, except she's a little bit concerned for his safety, because if he's found in the yard, then he will likely be killed. So she's like, okay, I gotta go, good night, love you, good night. And she leaves for a second, and he's like, oh, isn't she great? Isn't she just so lovely? And then she comes back outside and she says 3 words: Dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honourable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite. And all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. Madam, I come anon. But if thou mean'st not well, I do beseech thee, Madam, by and by I come, to cease thy strife and leave me to my grief. Tomorrow will I send. So what she's saying here, she says 3 words, dear Romeo, and then says way more than 3 words. And if what she wants out of him right now is a marriage proposal, will you marry me? That's 4 words. So she comes out and says 3 words. I guess, as smart as she is, maybe she's not great at math, but whatever. She comes out and she says, hang on really quick. If you truly love me and what you really want is to marry me, I'm going to send somebody to you tomorrow, and you're going to give that person the details on where and when I should be so that we can get married. And then she gets called and she's like, hang on a second. And she says, but if you don't mean to marry me, cut me loose right now, and we can just call this a crush, whatever. So I think it's interesting that Juliet, who in Act 1, Scene 3, I think that was like, I've never dreamt of the honor of getting married. She is now asking a man who she met like 2 hours ago, if he intends to marry her, and just says, give me a time and a place and I'll be there and I'll marry you. It's something to think about. Like, did she see Paris and was really frightened by him at the party, and she knows that Paris wants to marry her, so now she's just looking for somebody else to marry instead of having to marry Paris? Or is she really that hot for Romeo? Or is it now that the subject of marriage has been brought up and she knows it's on the table, she's just antsy to get it over and done with? Like, I'm not exactly sure, but I do think it's interesting that Juliet, who just a few hours ago when she was talking to her mom said she hadn't really thought about getting married yet. Maybe she was lying to her mom. I don't know. That's also an idea. But now she's essentially asking a guy who she met like 2 hours ago if he's proposing to her now. So that's a thing. Anyway, young love, yay. And Romeo's response is like, yes, I love you more than all the world, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, that's great. And she runs back inside, and he's like, oh, I don't really want to leave yet because I like being here with her. So fortunately for him, she comes back out again, and she's like, come back. And then she's like, what time should I send somebody to you tomorrow? And he says, oh, like 9 o'clock, send him by 9 o'clock. And she's like, absolutely. Without fail, somebody will be there by 9. And I forgot why I came back outside. Which, didn't she come back outside to find out what time she should send somebody to talk to Romeo? But anyway, he's like, I don't care if you don't remember your reason, because I like hanging out here with you, so we can just hang out forever until, whenever. And she's like, no, it's almost morning and they're going to find you, so you should go, and that would be bad. And then we get the, parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow. She says that to him, and then she goes back inside, and Romeo's like, oh, she's awesome. And now I got to go find a priest. And that's the end of Act 2, Scene 2, as it exists in many other versions, not the folio, because the folio don't have acts and scenes, doesn't have acts and scenes. Whatever. So tomorrow we get to check in with the priest who Romeo goes to talk to, and he's a smart man. That's all I'm going to say about the priest. We'll learn more about him tomorrow. So I'll see you then for that. Mwah.